there's no trade whatsoever. Well, technically there is still trade, it just doesn't flow anywhere. I made it so that every single node in the game is an endgame node. For example, Valencia, Bordeaux, Champagne, all of them are endgame nodes. And so is literally every other node. This should be very interesting. So let's get started. Okay, so what I'm curious about is how the countries will organize their merchants. So yeah, obviously they can still collect in as many nodes as they would like, but it's not efficient, they cannot transfer. Well, they actually can transfer, but it just wouldn't transfer anything, so AI is actually pretty smart and they are not doing that. Let's give it some time. Let's stop for now and see what's going on. France consolidated most of the region and even pushed a bit into Burgundy and Holy Roman Empire. I think what happened here is that Brittany got Burgundian inheritance and France attacked them and took some of the lands here as well as this state, Western Burgundy. So France is doing very well. I think same for Castile. They kick out Andalusia from the peninsula. I think they got, Aragon and Navarra as personal unions. They are allied to Portugal. They've taken exploration ideas, both Portugal, it already has expansion as well. France took admin ideas, it has a 666 Queen Marie de Valois. France is doing very well, and oppositely England is doing less than ideal. They've been beaten up by the Scots, they are allied to the French, so they've taken Wales, Northern England, York and this province over here. They've also pushed a bit into Ireland, with England only having this one province. So yeah, English not doing well.
Meanwhile,
The Ottomans are doing okay, not very aggressive so far. Did they ally AQ or something? Yep, they did, and they also allied Ramazan. Typical Ottomans blocking themselves out from expansion. But they also don't have the Kosovan gold mine as it belongs to Ragusa out of all people, which are still guaranteed by the Ottomans. It's pretty weird, shouldn't you want these lands? Don't you have claims on them? And the Mehmed is already dead. It's been 34 years, so he died quite young. And they've also taken admin ideas. Let's move on to the Mamluks. Mamluks are doing less well. They have some debt, but other than that they're doing okay territorially. They haven't lost anything to the Turks yet. They've expanded a bit here into Arabia, and I think that's about it. And for the rest of Africa, looks very normal. Kilwa expanding a bit, with Sofala as a vassal, cutting himself off. Looks a bit odd, but other than that, pretty normal. No colonies in the Americas just yet. Yep, not a single colony just yet. But anyways, here the Timi has completely died. All the vassals have broken free. Transoxiana looks okay. They've pushed a bit into Nogai here. Same as Fars, a bit into Timurid lands. India looks about normal. We have Delhi, Bengal, Bahmanis and Vijayanagar doing okay. Jaunpur is being completely obliterated right now by two separate wars actually. So it'll lose a whole bunch of land in any second. Southeast Asia looks about normal, but actually Brunei is completely dead. And as for Japan and East Asia in general, looks very normal. Hosokawa, they're actually all still loyal except for Yamana. So for Japan it's still up to anyone to unite the island. Oirat annexed the vassal and expanded a bit here and a bit here. Very beefy name placement. And back to Eastern Europe. Very interesting thing here is that Poland didn't take Lithuania as a PU and they're just allies. So now Lithuania is expanding into Russia. They've even taken some provinces from them, I believe. And Poland is an amazing ruler, 566. They've taken quality and deployed this. Pretty decent choice, and they have some nice allies with Denmark and Lithuania. So I think they'll do well. They've taken this one province here in HRE from Teutons, and they've also annexed most of the country. And other than that, Bohemia is basically, well, not dead, but they've lost 3 provinces, and they are now a junior partner of Austria, so I guess they are dead. And Austria also has Munich as a PU, and Denmark still has a PUs, both of them, and they are Well, Sweden is absolutely disloyal, but Norway is perfectly loyal. England and Teutons supporting the Swedish independence, but I think it's safe to say that they're busy doing their own thing. As for economies, Ming is number 1, followed by France, Ottomans, Mamluks, Poland, Castile, Vichy and Bengal. And I think the great power score is quite a bit different. Ming still the first, followed by France, Ottomans, Castile, Poland, Mamluks, Hungary and Austria. The HRE hasn't passed a single reform, and Austria has a terrible ruler as usual. Yeah, I think that's about it. Plenty of changes in the map, so let's see what's going on now. Well, first of all, Egypt has formed, which is pretty cool. I haven't played in this patch at all basically. I actually don't know how rare or common that is, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. It's allied to Morocco and Karaman, which is still alive as a one province minor, and they've also in a coalition against the Ottomans. Did the Ottomans get a coalition? Oh yes, they did. It's a pretty chunky coalition. So the Ottomans have 150 force limit, yeah, quantity and quality. So that's very strong Ottomans. And if you wanna declare on the coalition, you can see that they actually outnumber them quite a bit. Maybe with allies it's not as bad, but still, the coalition is pretty beefy. Well, anyways, in the past 50 years, Ottomans barely expanded. They took some land along the Black Sea coast, They've taken some islands from Venice, and they've pushed a tiny bit here into Ragusa, but Ragusa is still around. They still have the gold mine. Ottomans have the permaclaims on it. Well, anyways, Egypt. They've taken admin, offensive and trade. They have way less troops than the Ottomans do. So if the coalition doesn't attack, I feel like Egypt will die to the Ottomans sooner or later. A jump from Persia. Transoxiana expanded even more. They've taken a lot of the Kazakh and Nogai lands. They've also made a snake down south towards Fars. Now in the Indian subcontinent, like I said, Jaunpur is dead, but other than that, there's been surprisingly little changed. All the small guys are dying out slowly. I cannot tell if anything changed in Southeast Asia in the last 50 years. In China we have 2 and 3 pop-up states, so this is actually the vassal. China is clearly not doing well. Oirat has almost the same quantity of troops and way more manpower, so I think it's only a matter of time until Oirat invades. Back to Japan, the island is completely united. Even Okinawa and Hokkaido has been taken, as well as Ryukyu and South Sakhalin. Sorry, Kuril Islands and South Sakhalin. Well, anyways, that's 3 terrible trades in a row, and they're quite behind in the ideas, but they've taken diplo, quality and offensive ideas, so they'll also have pretty strong armies. As for Korea doing Korea things, Timbuktu expanded quite a bit, so did Songhai. They're now almost dividing the West African region between themselves. Congo actually expanded quite a bit. They're colonizing these 3 provinces. I didn't know they could do that. There's Spain formed, obviously by Castile. They have all the Aragonese islands still, and they are not colonizing, maybe besides this province. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, they have exploration expansion ideas, but there's no colonies so far. Okay, so they have 4 colonists, and they are all... wait, it's colonists busy promoting settlement growth instead of colonizing. I think it probably has something to do with the trade not flowing to Europe anymore, so the AI thinks that it's not worth to colonize it. I mean, there is some sense in that, but it's still weird that they would have all those colonists busy promoting land back home. They could be getting, extra merchants here. So there's actually a good chance that we might not see any European colonization. In the meantime, back to Western Europe. France united most of their region. They still have to take the Papal States. We have beefy Austria. Other than that, in Germany it looks very normal. No significant changes. Same for Denmark. They still have the APUs. Sweden is still disloyal, not declaring just yet. They are supported by Scotland, Teutons, Muscovy and Novgorod. So they actually have a chance to declare on them. but I think the Polish alliance is really keeping Denmark alive right now. In the British Isles, England is still holding on. They've allied Austria and Portugal, so I don't think Scots have any chance of pushing English out anytime soon. But the English also have the 665 Elizabeth von Habsburg on their throne. That's a very nice Habsburg to have on your throne. And now for the religious shenanigans, we have the Protestant Reformation. England went Anglican, and I think they went Reformed before that. They have a bit of both, or maybe it's a Scottish center converting, but Scots went Reformed, so did the Swiss, Genevans, and random HRE miners, and most of the Central Europe is Protestant. Other than that, all the religious stuff looks completely normal. Orthodox is being pushed out. We have big Great Ort and Lithuania pushing deep into Russia. They are not allied, and actually Great Ort lost a whole bunch of land to Lithuania. We also have Riga that's taken most of the Estonian lands. Muscovy is doing really badly. They're still supporting independence of Sweden, funnily enough, but they lost nearly all of their lands. Okay, so Egypt actually is number 2 in income and has more money than the Ottomans, and Spain even. So that's very surprising. Maybe the Egyptians won't get pushed back by the Ottomans anytime soon. And the great powers look kinda similar, with Ming and Austria being on the list. So French are collecting in the English Channel, as well as in Champagne obviously, and in Bordeaux. So I think the trade setup is really helping France, as the trade is not leaking out towards the English. And so far English Channel is still the richest node in the world, but only with 15 ducats. So it's a quite sad world we are living in. But actually Malacca and Siam might have more money than the English Channel. So anyways, let's give it another 50 to 60 years. Let's see what happens after that. Oh, the HRE passed 3 reforms, by the way. 1598, almost the time to get the global trade. Okay, there are a couple of things to talk about. Let's start with this region right here. After about 150 years, the Ottomans finally pushed the Egyptians out. They've lost Syria, as well as North Egypt, or actually like Mediterranean coast, I guess, to the Ottomans. They still have the capital, Cairo. That's very sad to see. I thought Mamluks had finally a chance in this patch, but maybe not. Persia, they're busy keeping Ottomans out, but they've been gradually losing provinces to them. Ottomans pushed into Persia trade node. Not that they can get anything out of it, as you can see here, but they are pushing slowly. The Ottomans also don't have the coalition anymore, and the AEs will actually just on the edge of being coalitioned again. Now that Ragusa is still alive, they finally taken the Kosovo gold mine from them, but they're still around. They have most of the Bosnian lands, the Ragusa itself. And is this nation? Yedisan. I'm not sure I've ever seen them. Is it like a Cossack breakaway state? But they have like the Buddhist flag. They are Veshe Republic. Do they have any more cores? Never seen this tag before. Songhai and Timbuktu are dividing this region. I think Songhai is expanding more, but they're busy being decked on by Moroccans. But Morocco is doing okay. It has Fezzan as a vassal. They're allied to Egypt, Jollof, and Timbuktu. Now Spain is doing very well. They've pushed a bit here into Italy, South Italy. They've also got PU of England and Naples. So they have half of Naples as a PU, and they've also got an England as a PU. The borders in the British Isles look very weird. I think England pushed back Scots a bit and taken these couple of lands. They've also lost some lands to France here. And France is doing really well. They've taken all of Burgundy. I think they've united all the French cultures, maybe except for these couple of provinces. They've pushed a lot into the lowlands, like they have, most of the lowlands, I would say. The Commonwealth pushed a lot, Poland pushed a lot west. They've taken a lot of Hungarian lands, even Pest, Hungary looks really weak right now. They've also pushed here into Czech lands and even into a bit into Brandenburg. Denmark is still managing to keep the unions, and Danes expanded a bit into Russia over here. And talking about Russia, Lithuania is completely dominating the Russian region, with Muscovy, I think, being entirely gone. I don't see Muscovy anywhere. So Novgorod is probably the biggest Russian state right now. Yeah, maybe even the only one. So Bashkiria is doing quite well. I think it's my first time seeing them this big. Same for Transoxiana. They've expanded a lot around in Central Asia. I think India looks remarkably the same. Maybe even less centralized than before with all these attacks. And Jaunpur is surviving in Nepal, here in the Himalayan mountains. Oirat here is absolutely expanding. We've pushed a lot into China, taking all these northern lands. China is absolutely collapsing. The Jiangsu occupying them as well. So also these two hordes are even allied to each other. I think this is the end of the Ming dynasty. And actually Japan lost quite a bit of land to this Sibet tribe as well. How did that happen? How did Japan lose Hokkaido and Sakhalin? Southeast Asia, I think just basically like exactly how it looked 100 years ago. There are no colonies anywhere that I see of in the New World. America looks basically native only. There's this colony over here, English South Africa, which looks very neat and clean, but I don't know why they're colonizing here and not like other parts of Africa or South America or anything. Oh, there's Tunis over here as well. I've never seen Tunis colonized. That's a nice change. Do they have exploration? They have expansion as a first idea group. Wow, Tunis is the main colonizer right now. And Jolov as well. New colonial powers emerging. Far the great powers are looking like this. You have Ottomans, France and Spain leading the world with Ming, Poland, Lithuania, Bengal and Egypt rounding out the top 8. I think France is probably #1 income, but let's just double check that. No, it's actually Poland as #1, followed by Ottomans and France, and Bengal pretty much all tied for the second spot, followed by Spain, Lithuania and Morocco. How the heck do they have so much money? They look very small. I guess not getting all the trade sucked out makes them so rich. We have now the Nordics with Denmark and Norway going Protestant. Sweden is remaining Catholic for now, but I think they'll switch soon. And pretty much the entirety of HRE is now either Reformed or Protestant. So that HRE, same for the Empire of China, they're losing one imperial authority a month. Safe to say, they're dying soon. I'm really curious who will get the global trade spawn. I think it will be one of the Asian nodes over here. Malacca 18.3, Siam 18.7. Oh, Bengal has 23.2. That's quite a lot of money. I think all of these Indian nodes, these two at least, have a lot more money than I expect. Even Ethiopia has 12. How do they have so much money? I mean, it's not a lot of money to say, but for example, Aleppo has the same, Venice has the same, Genoa has the same, English Channel barely has more, and Lubek has less money than Ethiopia. Beijing has no money at all. Nippon also has 20 ducats, very solid. But anyways, let's see, it's already 1600. I think it's supposed to spawn already, as these guys don't have... Oh, there's no colonialism. Okay, so because no one is colonizing, they don't have colonialism. 1696. So this is the world. Let's start with Americas this time around. We have 3 pretty beefy native tribes. We have Huron in northeastern America. Yeah, we have Creek in kind of like the Louisiana area. And we have the Zuni Confederation in Mexico / Texas, California area. They actually Tech 14, which is... No, it's quite a few techs behind Europeans. Yeah, Iroquois somehow have the feudalism, but not anyone else. Other than that, we have Cusco here, not uniting the Inca so far. I think Spain integrated the PU of England, but we have a new England emerging from French territories. Now Spain is allied to just Portugal. They've annexed Naples as well. They have entirety of southern Italy. They have Pisa here and they have Ferrara here. And they've also expanded into the lowlands, having Flanders and like majority of Belgium here as well. And obviously they annex the English, so they have that. They don't have any colonies. Oh no, they inherited their English. But they're doing very well. I think they'll definitely be in the top 3 great powers, maybe even top 2. As for Portugal, they're just allied to Spain, and that's about it. They're also... oh, their throne is being claimed by Spain, as they have the same dynasty, and actually Portuguese king is very old, so we might have some PU here as well. Iberian Union, anyone? What surprises me is that it's 1700 almost, and Portugal only has 40,000 troops. Isn't that like really low for endgame? I know they don't have like colonies and some of the institutions maybe. Yes, they still don't have colonialism anywhere. Still, I think having 27,000 max manpower in 1700 is just sad. Let's check Spain. They have 95,000 and 200 force limit. Okay, that is leads not that bad. Now moving on to France. France is continuing to do really well. They've pushed far into lowlands, controlling most of it, except for Holland here and the Spanish territories over here. They've also pushed quite a bit into Germany, and they are reformed. So they joined the gang, and we don't have a single Catholic nation in northwestern and central Europe. And we have Ottomans on the Italian peninsula as well. For quite some time I see this already prosperity over here. We have Landshut over here doing pretty well. What is this? Mainz expanding quite a bit. So is Magdeburg, and Hamburg looks really good. We have Sweden here in Pomerania as well. So they've finally broken free from Denmark, as they've taken a bit of their lands over here in Novgorod, as well as they kicked out them from mainland Scandinavia. Okay, so the biggest change of the past couple of decades has been that Lithuania is doing really well. They have entirety of the Baltics, they've pushed far into Russia, and most importantly, they somehow got Poland as a PU. So now they have Poland and are expanding westwards into Germany and Czechia region, deep into the HRE. I think HRE at this point is mostly controlled by non-HRE members. So that's very interesting. I don't know if they got it like peacefully or did they enforce it through their missions. Because as far as I know, they have enforced the Commonwealth complete. So maybe they did exactly that. How many troops do they have? They have 155k. They have quality aristocratic ideas, so decent military, but not anything crazy. And for Poland has way more troops, so I don't think they've PU'd them by force. I think Poland should be winning that fight quite easily, because they also have way better national ideas, and they have quality and offensive and quantity, so their military is definitely quite strong. And we have Protestant Poland. Just notice that. We have Protestant Poland. Okay. Ottomans are basically not expanding much into Egypt and like Persia region anymore. I think they've taken over maybe this like Caspian Sea coastline. Maybe they pushed a bit into Egypt because now Cairo is Turkish. Of course, there's a push towards Europe. They've taken over Austrian lands, Slovenia, what is this, Croatian lands, and they've pushed a bit into Italy as well. So I guess the Ottomans are moving in that direction, even though they have like a bunch of permaclaims here as well. Another successful nation is Transoxiana, even though they lost like quite a few rich lands here to the Ottomans. They've gained some from Persia, and they're now busy beating up Oirat with the help of Bashkiria, so you might see some action over here as well. India is finally being more consolidated. Bengal expanded here east into Burma. Deccan, or rather Bahman, is won against Vijay and is in uniting the southern, sorry, I almost said Italy, southern India. Now in Southeast Asia again, not much is happening. Maybe Lanfang took over quite a few provinces over here. I remember actually the EU4 guy, I mean the EU4 channel, don't remember the exact name, that was saying that this is the rarest nation in EU4 back in the days. So it could be a very rare thing, I don't know. And VJ colonizing here actually. They've taken some of the Spice Islands and a few other provinces around here. So maybe they're migrating here. Okay, other than that, in China we have quite beefy dive yet. Liang is controlling majority of Chinese development, but actually Beijing is in the hands of Zhangzhou, which are still allied to Oirat. Now Japan, they still basically look the same as 100 years ago. Yeah, and other than that we have completely dead HRE, all 3 reforms actually revoked by someone. Protestant is the official face and Lorraine is the emperor. No wonder France and Spain are pushing, and even Lithuania are pushing into the HRE. Okay, now let's check the great powers. They are Ottomans, followed by Lithuania, followed by France. So Spain is not in the top 3. And we have Bengal, Liang, Deccan and Ayutthaya rounding out the top 8. With Ayutthaya only having 600 death, which is quite low for a great power in 1700. Comes to the economies, Ottomans are by far number 1 with 350, 340. And other great powers hovering around 200 income. Spain actually has almost the same as Morocco, which is quite surprising. How are you guys so rich? Now let's go for the final stretch. So first of all, at a glance, there seems to be quite a lot of consolidation going on in the last 100 years. Let's start with Europe. Spain is completely gone from the British Isles, and so is England itself. Now Scots rule the waves. It's very interesting that they are not forming Great Britain, but I guess that's better for us, since I rarely see Scotland at the end of the game. Now moving on to France, which is absolutely massive and dominating the Western Europe. They kicked out Spain from Spain, and they've taken over most of West German development, and as well as the entirety of lowlands, especially after this war. And they have permaclaims on the entirety of Iberia, and I think they're well on their way, like to kick out everyone from Iberia. The funny thing is that Portugal is being guaranteed by Congo, which is not something you wanna have as Portugal. Now, other than that, Lithuania is another big winner here. They've taken over the entirety of the Baltic coast, if you consider Poland as a subject, which are now loyal. So Poles are now loyal, so Lithuania is safe to form the Lithuanian Commonwealth, but they don't have the decision right here. That's very surprising. I thought they definitely have one, but they are almost done integrating Poland. They have terrible diplomatic reputation. I think no modifiers to it. So 5,000 diplo points to integrate Poland, and they're almost done. Well, they are dominating the Baltic. They have other part of Germany as well as the Czech lands, and pushing very deep south as well. They have the entirety of Denmark and a lot of the North German free cities like Bremen, Lübeck, Hamburg, and they are dominating the trade. They collecting in Lithuania, they're collecting in Lübeck, they're collecting in Baltic Sea as well, along with Poland, and just generally doing really well. I'm very surprised to see Lithuania as being the winner here, but they're expanding west and east at the same time, so I'm proud of them. Good job. Other than that, Ottomans are doing Ottoman things. They continue to expand into Persia, taking over almost the entirety of Persia, I would say. It's just a bit left to Transoxiana over here. And they almost kicked out Egypt out of Mesopotamia as well, with just these 2 provinces remaining here. But most of importantly, they continued they pushed into Europe. They now have like the entirety of Austria. They also continued they push into Italy. They now have, I would say, like 90% of Italy. They also have Sardinia. As that, we have Morocco doing well, kicking out Portugal from Maghreb. They continued and they also pushed them a bit further into Iberia. They have a few provinces over here, and I think if not for the French, they would have a good chance of forming Andalusia. But with France this big, I don't think it's possible. But they're actually allied to the Ottomans, and Morocco has, well, only measly 100,000 troops, so maybe they won't be able to do that much after all. And France is allied to Scotland and Cyprus, so they have one decent ally, but nothing crazy. Other than that, Congo is absolutely dominating in Africa. They've taken over pretty much entirety of Central Africa, except for the Great Lakes region for some reason. But most importantly, they've pushed deep into West Africa, basically destroying everyone here except for Songhai, that has a few provinces left, Timbuktu as well. And now, actually, after all those years, we have European colonies on the African continent. We have Spanish Niger as well as Portuguese Guinea here, but still no North American colonies, or just general American colonies. So moving on to the Americas, the previous natives that have been doing well are still the dominant ones, especially the Huron guys that consolidated a lot of the, I think this was Midwest area of the states, kicking out Creek from there. So does the Zuni Confederation. They're destroying Creek and taking over a lot of their lands and pushing them out of, what is this? This looks like a Mexican Empire borders without the mainland Mexico, if that's even a thing. Inca are still not consolidated, and basically nothing has happened in South America over the past 400 years. Now moving on to here, we have Zulu, which is very nice to see. Yeah, I think definitely from Spain. And Spain is also guaranteed by the Congo. Well, that's just sad, isn't it? Well, anyways, the Kilwa look really beautiful. They have majority of east coast of Africa, with Adal having the Horn of Africa. And moving on to India, we see that there are 3 blobs at the end: Deccan, Bengal and Delhi. Delhi is controlling most of the northwestern region. Bengal is controlling the Bengal region as well as Burma. And they pushed quite a bit actually into like Ayutthaya, Malaya region. And Deccan is controlling southern central India, the Coromandel, Deccan and part of the Gujarat nodes. And Daiviet is still around. I've seen for a bit before this, without the recordings, that Daiviet actually split into Annam in the south and Tonkin up north. I don't know how exactly it works, but they've definitely split. But now they're back again. I don't know how it works. They look better than ever. They pushed even more into China. They've taken even the Ayutthayan capital, right? From Ayutthaya, they have a few provinces over here. And they are not the Chinese emperor, so they should be totally fine. Now Liang is the Chinese emperor. They've passed one reform actually, so they're not doing terrible just yet. But with the mandate of heaven, it's only a matter of time until they start doing terribly. And I think the main reason they are alive is that Transoxiana full annexed Oirat along with Daiviet, and Liang also pretty much full annexed Zhengzhou. So there's no more unguarded nomadic frontier happening right now. And Korea has pretty much stayed at peace for the last 400 years. Very Korean thing to do. And Japan expanded a lot, at least the name placement did. They've taken back Hokkaido from the tribes. They've pushed a bit into Manchuria, and they're starting to colonize Siberia, which is nice to see. And in Southeast Asia we have Sunda unifying a good portion of the region. We have most of the Indonesian lands, like mainland Java Indonesian lands, control large portion of Sumatra, and as well as pushing a bit into Philippines. And they even have their own colony, the Sundanese Australia. So they're doing very well. Ottomans are number 1, followed by Lithuania and France, which are basically equal in terms of development. And then way below that is Bengal, Deccan, Daiviet, Congo, Sunda. So definitely the great powers. This is quite interesting and not your usual guess here like Sunda, Congo and Daiviet. I rarely see them doing well in any of my games. But still, Ottomans are the Ottomans, even without the luck modifiers and with basically no proper trade setup. They're still doing really well. Actually wanna see how they organize a trade setup. Have one merchant here, one merchant in Alexandria, one in Constantinople, one in Basra, and one in Persia. So they pretty much focus on Middle East and a bit in Ragusa. They're not collecting in Venice, which obviously is very nice for Milan. They're controlling the entirety of the north here right now. Same for Crimea, control most of it, but they're just letting Poland collect everything there is. Now in terms of income, Ottomans, France and Lithuania were basically all tied for the number one spot with 500 plus income. Ottomans a bit in the lead, and then after that we have a huge drop to Bengal with 380, followed by Deccan, Poland, which is a PU of Lithuania, if you remember, followed by Delhi, Congo and Morocco. And we have these natives with 170 of monthly income, doing well for themselves as well. Now what I wanted to check last is province development, and the highest deaf province in the world is obviously the native provinces. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 5 most developed provinces are native provinces. And now for the other things, the culture map mode looks remarkably 1444-esque. I actually don't see a single province converted, maybe except for these two with Burgundian pushing a bit. Scottish and English basically the same for the Scandinavian cultures. For the East, maybe a bit of Ruthenian push over here, like into maybe these two provinces. And the Oirat we have here, that's actually definitely something that wasn't here before. So yeah, I would say that's about it. Thanks for watching until the end. Bye.